The intergalactic medical research vessel Aurora drifted in the quiet reaches of deep space, a gleaming silver structure surrounded by the vast, mysterious darkness of the cosmos. On board, a diverse group of alien specialists, scientists, medical experts, and technicians moved with precision and purpose through the pristine hallways, their minds trained on their noble mission, healing and understanding all known species of the galaxy. Today, however, they faced an unusual situation that had every crew member on edge. At the heart of the commotion lay Commander Velder, a high-ranking alien diplomat from the planet Ixros, a species known for their fragility. Ixrosians were delicate beings, with translucent, almost glass-like skin that shimmered faintly under the vessel's artificial lighting. But this shimmer was no longer present. Commander Velder was critically injured, and their life signs were fluctuating wildly. It was a mystery how such a grave injury had befallen them, and every alien crew member felt the weight of responsibility to keep him alive. Enter Alex Carter, the only human on board and a relatively new addition to the Aurora's medical team. Alex wasn't exactly a scientist, nor a doctor, by alien standards, but they were resourceful, practical, and unfazed by situations that would leave others reeling. Alex's rugged experience with field medicine on Earth's rougher, colder colonies had prepared them for almost anything. Almost anything, except, perhaps, the amount of sheer panic that permeated the alien medical bay. The moment Alex walked into the medical bay, they were greeted by an overwhelming cacophony of alerts, alarms, and flashing lights. Half a dozen alien crew members were frantically pressing buttons, adjusting monitors, and issuing commands in hurried, hushed voices. The air was thick with tension as every crew member struggled to outdo the next in keeping up with the emergency protocols. Alex glanced around, bewildered by the intensity of it all. "I thought there was an actual crisis here," they muttered to themselves, surveying the scene. Not just a mild fever. The Ixrosians were sensitive to even the slightest discomfort, and Commander Velder had suffered a minor cut along his forearm that, for any human, would require little more than a bandage. But for Ixrosian, a cut was a disaster. Their translucent skin was paper-thin, their blood vessels highly sensitive, and they lacked the natural healing mechanisms humans took for granted. The Ixrosian doctor on duty, Dr. Rhyx, eyed Alex with thinly veiled disdain as they entered. "Oh, it's you," Dr. Rhyx said, eyes narrowing with skepticism. "I'm not sure your expertise is quite appropriate for this level of crisis." "Just trying to help," Alex replied, unperturbed by the icy reception. "What seems to be the problem?" Rhyx glanced at Alex's toolkit with a hint of judgment, his tentacle-like fingers twitching in nervous anticipation. "Commander Velder's injuries are delicate and critical. His physiology is unlike anything a human could comprehend. If we misstep by even a fraction, it could mean his life." "Right," Alex replied, nodding as if Rhyx had just explained something incredibly simple. They walked over to Velder, taking a look at the thin gash on his arm. To Alex, it looked manageable, and they'd treated far worse injuries in far less ideal conditions. "So, let's just clean this up and close it, then." The suggestion was met with a horrified silence. The other alien crew members exchanged shocked glances, and Dr. Rhyx's face twisted in a mixture of disbelief and revulsion. "Close it?" Rhyx repeated, aghast. "Do you even understand the ramifications of such a procedure on Ixrosian?" Alex took a breath, visibly restraining their amusement. "Listen, where I come from, cuts and scrapes are just normal. We don't need complex machinery or protocols for something like this. I can help, I just need some basic supplies." Dr. Rhyx sighed, gesturing to a table laden with alien medical instruments. Each one was a marvel of design, but none looked remotely familiar to Alex. They picked up a sleek, metallic object with a faintly glowing tip, raising it to eye level. "What's this?" Alex asked. "That's a neurostabilizer. It realigns nerve pulses with a frequency calibrated to Ixrosian biology," Rhyx answered with pride. Please refrain from touching it. Alex returned it to the table, mildly impressed. All right, then. You got anything like antiseptic? Antiseptic? Dr. Rhyx looked at Alex, bewildered. We don't use such crude remedies. One of the technicians, a quiet alien named Zale who had been watching Alex with interest, finally spoke up. What exactly do humans use for such situations? Alex flashed a grin. Soap, water, and bandages mostly. The entire room was silent. Some crew members exchanged glances, and Dr. Rhyx looked nearly apoplectic. Alex, however, could see the spark of curiosity in Zale's eyes. Soap? Zale asked, fascinated. What does that do? It cleans wounds and kills germs, tiny organisms that can cause infection, Alex explained. Maybe we're not as high-tech as you all, but it works. Sometimes, the basics get the job done. Zale seemed to be the only one interested. How interesting. I would be curious to see this in action. Dr. Rhyx was quick to interject. Absolutely not. Commander Velder needs precise care, not soap and bandages. All right, Alex said, putting their hands up in surrender. But, look, if all your equipment fails, maybe give it a shot. As they watched the flurry of alien crew members frantically adjusting and recalibrating equipment, Alex found a small corner of the room and pulled out a simple human-made medkit from their bag, just in case things took a turn. They cleaned and prepared their tools with the calm efficiency of someone who had handled plenty of emergencies. After about 20 minutes of chaotic alien protocols, Commander Velder's condition was finally stabilized, though the alien medical team looked as if they'd just survived a war. Exhausted and jittery, they slumped against the medical bay walls, relieved but on edge. Zale approached Alex cautiously after everyone had settled. I couldn't help but notice how calm you were. Experience, Alex replied with a shrug. Sometimes, you just have to roll with it. Panic usually makes things worse. Zale studied Alex for a moment, his blue-gray eyes reflective. Perhaps we could all learn from that. Dr. Rhyx overheard the conversation and scoffed, muttering under his breath, humans, with their primitive methods. Alex merely chuckled. They'd been called worse things. In truth, they didn't mind the alien crew's skepticism. They were confident that time would show that practicality and resilience had their place here, even amidst advanced alien technology. But they didn't realize just how soon that time would come. Days passed after the commander's near-death experience, and the crew gradually relaxed, though their trust in Alex was still tenuous at best. Despite saving the day, Alex was considered an oddity, a curiosity that some, like Zale, found intriguing but others viewed as a primitive inconvenience. Most crew members, including Dr. Rhyx, still avoided interacting with the human unless absolutely necessary. For Alex, life aboard the Aurora was an ongoing lesson in alien customs and advanced technologies. They were fascinated by the ship's medical facilities, which combined elements of biology and physics in ways humans hadn't yet mastered. The aliens used highly precise, automated diagnostic tools and medicines tailored to each species' unique physiology. For most on the crew, the slightest inconvenience led to the pressing of buttons and activation of intricate protocols that, to Alex, seemed overly elaborate. Alex noticed, however, that while the technology was remarkable, it wasn't foolproof. And as they learned more about the alien systems, Alex was starting to see cracks in the crew's over-reliance on technology, cracks they'd been warned not to address. One afternoon, an alert sounded, sending the crew members into a frenzy. Alex sighed, already sensing that another crisis had struck. They followed the panicked murmurs to the medical bay, where the crew had gathered around a stretcher. On it lay Ensign Tarlock, a burly, reptilian crew member whose scales shimmered like wet metal. Tarlock had been injured during a routine inspection outside the ship, and a sharp piece of equipment had grazed his tail. To Alex, it looked like a deep scratch. Nothing life-threatening. But the alien crew were acting as though they'd lost a major limb. "Step aside," Dr. Rhyx commanded, his tentacle-like fingers twitching as he calibrated a machine with intense focus. The scanner beeped, and the display lit up with information about Tarlok's injury, projected in holographic detail above the stretcher. "This requires the Polaris injector." "No, wait, perhaps the oscillator luminon." Zale leaned over to Alex and muttered, "It's just a scratch, right?" Alex nodded, whispering back, "Where I come from, he'd probably get a high five for bravery and a bandage. But hey, don't let me ruin the show." Still, Alex couldn't help but feel concerned for Tarlok, despite the melodrama. They asked, "Would it be okay if I just cleaned the wound with something simple?" Dr. Rhyx rolled his eyes. "Here we go again with the simple methods. Humans don't seem to understand the importance of..." Before Rhyx could finish, an urgent signal interrupted. The walls of the medbay glowed a deep red as an automated voice announced, "Warning, life support malfunction detected." The crew froze. Life support issues were critical for beings with specific atmospheric needs. For Alex, it was just another reminder that space was unforgiving, but they knew their physiology was far more adaptable than most of the alien crew. Zale's face contorted in worry as he watched his colleagues scramble to override the system. The life support systems controlled oxygen levels, humidity, temperature, all crucial for many species on board. For most of the crew, even a small change in the atmospheric mix could mean disaster. And sure enough, the system's display showed the oxygen levels had started to dip dangerously low. Alex watched as the alien crew began to panic, pressing buttons at random, some even shouting at the machine as though it might respond. Alex held back a grin. Years of working in rough conditions had taught them that panicking in such moments never helped. "Relax, folks," Alex said. "Let me have a look at that console." Dr. Rhyx shot Alex a look of exasperation. "I highly doubt you could understand the complexity of our systems, human." "Look, you're right. I don't understand most of this high-tech wizardry," Alex said with a smile. "But what I do know is that when things stop working, it's often a simple fix." As the crew exchanged skeptical glances, Alex approached the console, looking for a reset function or something that appeared universal. Sure enough, after a few moments, they found a control labeled System Recalibration. Without hesitation, Alex pressed it, ignoring the alien symbols flashing across the screen. The display flickered, and after a tense second, the room filled with the hum of restored airflow. A wave of relief washed over the crew as they realized their oxygen levels were stabilizing. The atmosphere returned to normal, and the red warning lights faded. The silence that followed was thick with shock and a hint of embarrassment. Dr. Rhyx stared at Alex, as if trying to process what had just happened. "You fixed it," he finally stammered. Alex shrugged. "Lucky guess. Sometimes, you just need to try the basic stuff." Zale suppressed a grin. He couldn't deny the amusement in seeing Alex, a so-called primitive human, outshine his sophisticated colleagues. Despite his initial skepticism, Zale was becoming increasingly intrigued by Alex's unconventional approach. The incident left the crew with a newfound respect, albeit grudgingly, for Alex. But for Alex, the event had sparked an unsettling realization: the crew's dependency on complex systems had left them vulnerable. If they couldn't even manage a minor malfunction, how would they fare in a real emergency? Over the next few days, Alex found themselves spending more time with Zale. Their conversations were a mix of curiosity and friendly banter, with Zale often asking questions about Earth and humanity's more straightforward ways of handling life's challenges. "So, you really don't rely on technology as much as we do?" Zale asked one evening, as they observed the stars from a quiet corner of the ship. "Depends on where you are on Earth," Alex replied. "But yeah, most of us learn to adapt, make do with what we have. We improvise." Zale nodded thoughtfully. "It's strange to think that adaptability could be as important as advanced tech." I never considered it, until now. Their conversation was interrupted by another alarm, followed by a loud, reverberating crash that shook the ship. Alex's instincts kicked in, and they immediately sprang to their feet. "What now?" they muttered as crew members rushed past them, shouting and scrambling. Zale pulled up a nearby screen. "Meteor cluster, unpredicted. We must have veered off course." The meteor cluster had caused severe damage to one of the engines. As the crew scrambled to assess the damage, Alex could sense the brewing panic. Their experience kicked in, and they moved quickly, stepping in to assist. Down in the engine bay, the scene was chaotic. Alien engineers, all panicked and fumbling with tools, looked up as Alex arrived. The damage to the engine was severe, but Alex could see exactly what needed to be done. "All right, I'm going to need everyone's help," Alex said, a tone of authority in their voice. "We need to patch that coolant leak first, or the whole system could blow. And we don't need fancy tech for this, just follow my lead." Zale and a few others hesitantly followed Alex's instructions, using simple materials to plug the coolant leak temporarily. The tension in the room was palpable, but Alex's confidence was contagious. Once the coolant was stabilized, Alex used some basic repair techniques to get the engine back online, albeit at half power. They wiped their brow, exhausted but relieved. "Not bad for a human, huh?" Alex said, flashing a grin at Zale. Zale looked at Alex with a newfound admiration. "Not bad at all. In fact, I think I might be learning something from you." For the first time, Alex felt truly seen by the crew. Their unconventional methods, initially dismissed, had proven effective. But more than that, Alex had earned something far more valuable, the beginnings of trust from their alien companions. As they made their way back to the common area, Zale turned to Alex, smiling. "You know, I think there's more to humanity than we ever expected." Days after the engine incident, the Aurora drifted quietly through space, its energy reserves low but steady. Repairs continued on the damaged systems, and the crew had settled into a cautious routine. Alex's contributions had not gone unnoticed, and the once skeptical crew now looked to them with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Alex's unconventional methods were strange to them, but they were undeniably effective. Still, Alex sensed an undercurrent of anxiety among the crew. They were acutely aware that one more emergency could spell disaster. Despite the mild camaraderie that had developed, Alex knew that even their improvised solutions couldn't hold the ship together forever. Then, the crisis arrived. The alarm system jolted the ship, blaring a deep, throbbing sound that reverberated through every corridor. Crew members scrambled to their stations, all trying to make sense of the flashing red warnings on the nearest display screens. Alex was in the engine bay, working on minor adjustments, when Zale rushed in, his face pale with fear. "We've got company," Zale said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Pirate ships, 3 of them." Alex's heart sank. Pirates were notorious in the galaxy for raiding ships, stripping them for parts, and taking their crew as captives, or worse. The Aurora, already weakened and limping, was a perfect target. The main view screen in the command center showed 3 ominous vessels surrounding the Aurora like circling vultures. Unlike the sleek Galactic Council ships, these pirate vessels looked rough and patched together, their hulls marked by makeshift repairs and scars from countless battles. Alex could feel the tension as the crew processed their grim reality. "What do we do?" one of the crew members muttered, a tremor in his voice. Alex stepped forward, determined not to let fear overwhelm the group. "We're not helpless here. I've seen ships taken down with a lot less than what we've got. Let's get creative." Dr. Rhyx, the once doubtful medic, looked at Alex skeptically. "How do you propose we take on 3 heavily armed ships, human?" Alex grinned, a spark of defiance in their eyes. "We've got ingenuity on our side. Let's give them a fight they won't expect." They quickly began strategizing, drawing from their knowledge of Earth's more improvised combat tactics. The crew, initially reluctant, slowly warmed to the idea as Alex explained each step with a steady, reassuring tone. "We'll lure one of the ships in close," Alex began, pulling up a holographic display of the enemy ships. "They'll expect us to be afraid, maybe even begging for mercy. But if we can disable one of their engines, we could use it as cover and slip past the others." The plan was bold and risky. But in the face of certain doom, the crew rallied around Alex's confidence. Zale stood at Alex's side, ready to help execute the plan, his usual skepticism replaced by a fierce resolve. The pirates, clearly underestimating the damaged Aurora, fell into Alex's trap just as expected. One of their ships closed in, eager to make the first strike. The crew, guided by Alex's instructions, sent a surge of power to the damaged engine, releasing a burst of plasma toward the approaching vessel. The plasma hit the pirate ship's hull, causing it to swerve and stall. Cheers erupted from the crew, but Alex knew they couldn't celebrate yet. The other two ships quickly moved in, angered by the Aurora's unexpected resistance. "Prepare for countermeasures," Alex shouted, scanning the remaining energy reserves. "They'll be on us in seconds." The command center filled with a tense silence as the pirate ships loomed closer, their weapons glowing with ominous energy. Dr. RHYX looked at Alex, his usual disdain replaced with genuine concern. "Do you think we'll make it?" he asked quietly. Alex didn't have an answer, but they kept their expression steady. "As long as we keep moving, we've got a chance. Let's make them regret underestimating us." The pirates launched a barrage of energy blasts, shaking the Aurora to its core. Crew members clung to their consoles as the ship lurched and shuddered. Alex grabbed the controls, rerouting power to the shields while shouting for Zale to assist. "Zale, get down to the engine bay and stabilize the power core. We can't hold this off if the core fails." Zale nodded, his face set with grim determination. "On it. Don't let them get us before I'm back." The minutes that followed were a chaotic blur of maneuvering and counterattacks. Alex directed the crew to reroute systems, dodge incoming fire, and return blasts in carefully timed intervals. Though outgunned, the Aurora's crew fought with every ounce of creativity and determination Alex had inspired in them. Just as hope began to fade, a message crackled over the intercom. "Captain, we have an incoming signal from an unidentified ship." The crew stared at each other, a mix of confusion and hope on their faces. "Patch it through," Alex commanded, wary but intrigued. The screen lit up with the image of a grizzled alien, his face scarred and worn. He wasn't one of the Galactic Council, nor did he bear the markings of the pirate factions. "I am Captain Varek of the Skalmar Alliance," the alien announced, his voice deep and steady. "We have intercepted your distress signal and come to offer assistance." Relief washed over the crew, and Alex felt a glimmer of hope return. Captain Varek explained that his alliance, while small, had been fighting against the pirate syndicates for years. He respected any ship that had the bravery to stand up to the pirates and offered his alliance's support. With the Skalmar Alliance by their side, the tide of battle shifted. The pirate ships, caught off guard by the sudden arrival of Varek's forces, retreated in disarray, unwilling to risk a prolonged battle against two opponents. As the last pirate vessel disappeared from the viewscreen, the crew erupted in cheers. Zale, who had rushed back to the command center, joined Alex with a grin of disbelief. "We did it," he breathed. "We actually did it." Alex nodded, exhausted but triumphant. "Couldn't have done it without everyone. We stood together." Captain Varek hailed them again, his tone one of respect. "You fought bravely, human. I did not expect such resilience from your kind." Alex smirked, nodding toward the alien captain. "Humans have a reputation for defying expectations." "Thank you, Captain Varek. Your timing couldn't have been better." After a brief exchange, the Skalmar ship departed, leaving the Aurora's crew with a newfound respect for their human ally. They'd weathered the storm together, and in the process, the gap between human and alien had closed just a bit more. The Aurora drifted peacefully through the dark expanse of space, its crew breathing a collective sigh of relief after their harrowing encounter with the pirate ships. Though they were weary and their ship battered, spirits were high. For the first time, the crew looked at Alex not as an outsider, but as one of their own. In the days following the battle, repairs became a shared effort, with Alex at the center, guiding the crew as they tackled tasks with newfound determination. Even Dr. Rhyx, once the most skeptical of Alex's abilities, had taken to consulting them for ideas, his reserved demeanor softened by respect. But beyond the physical repairs, something had shifted aboard the Aurora. The crew, once divided by alien customs and species-specific mistrust, was now united by a shared respect for each other's strengths. The encounter with Captain Varek and the Skalmer Alliance had solidified something vital for the crew, a deep sense of interspecies solidarity. One evening, as the last bolts were tightened and the ship hummed with renewed life, the crew gathered in the common area for a modest celebration. They shared stories, laughter, and even exchanged pieces of their respective cultures in the form of songs, tales, and toasts. For once, Alex felt at ease, surrounded by friends who now saw them as an equal, rather than an outsider. Zale, who had been a particularly close ally during the crisis, raised his drink and looked toward Alex. "To our human," he said, his voice filled with gratitude and a touch of humor. "Who taught us that even a toolkit can be a weapon if wielded with enough courage and creativity?" Laughter filled the room and Alex chuckled, shaking their head. "I just showed you what humans do best," they replied. "We adapt, we improvise, and apparently we're pretty good at not dying." Dr. Rhyx, his usually stern face softened, lifted his glass as well. "To resourcefulness and resilience." "I had my doubts," he admitted, glancing at Alex, "but I can see now why humans have a reputation for surprising everyone." As the crew clinked their glasses, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of pride, not just in themselves, but in their newfound friends and allies. The trials they had faced together had stripped away their differences, revealing the common threads that bound them as living beings fighting for survival, unity, and peace. As the laughter subsided, Zale leaned closer to Alex, his voice low. "You know, I didn't think you'd last more than a day on this ship," he confessed, a glint of humor in his eyes. "But you've proven me wrong. You've shown us that maybe humans have more to offer than we thought." Alex chuckled. "Don't get too comfortable. You never know what a human might pull next." Their light-hearted exchange was interrupted by a signal from the command center, indicating an incoming message. The room quieted, and Captain Arlen addressed the crew. "We've received a transmission from Captain Varek of the Skalmer Alliance. He wanted us to know that he stands ready to assist us should we need it again. It seems we've made an ally." The crew exchanged looks of satisfaction, knowing that their bravery had not only earned them respect but also forged new alliances. As the celebration continued, Alex stepped away from the crowd, moving toward one of the viewing ports. The vastness of space stretched out before them, and for the first time since joining the Aurora, they felt a profound sense of belonging. Zale joined them, standing quietly by their side. After a moment, he spoke, his voice soft. "You're a strange one, Alex. I don't think any of us really understood you when you first arrived. But now, I can't imagine us facing this journey without you." Alex smiled, touched by his words. "Strange is just another word for different, Zale. And maybe, just maybe, different is exactly what this crew needed." They stood in comfortable silence, watching as distant stars shimmered, each one a reminder of the vast unknown that lay before them. They had faced the unthinkable, and together, they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. In the quiet aftermath of the battles and struggles, the crew of the Aurora had found not only an unexpected hero in Alex but also a deeper understanding of the bonds that transcended species, culture, and origin. They were a crew, a family, ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at them next, together. And in that moment, as they drifted onward, the Aurora was more than just a ship, it was a beacon of resilience, hope, and the unbreakable spirit of those who had learned to trust, fight, and laugh together in the face of adversity.